Good morning, everybody. Glad to be here with y'all this morning. We want to just give a brief overview of the crop. I had an opportunity to speak last month to Peanut Congress over at Amelia Island, so I brought some of those slides there with me, and that was a whole U.S. report, and we're going to focus here on just the southeast. So with that being said, what we want to look at in these particular areas is just mainly what our acreage looks like, varieties that we had planted, some issues and concerns that we may have seen throughout the planting season and into the growing season, and maybe some production predictions. So just kind of we can forecast to see what we're looking at as far as our tonnage. Spoke with Barry Tillman from Florida. He said they're looking at about 165,000 acres. And you got to think about as I give this, because I want y'all to really see what we're focusing on. That's going to be very important as we look about what percent the crop was planted when. So like I said, I gave this report in the middle of last month, the middle of June, and they were, he said about 85 to 90% done. He said probably still in the panhandle looking at 75%. So they still liked a good bit during the middle of June. 06G was obviously still the dominant variety, and he said there is some nematode varieties out there that they're planting more of, but they're trying new varieties as seed becomes available. So they didn't really have any major issues at the time, just some weed problems and a few stand issues. A little bit concerned about the shortened rotations and the disease control cost and possible crop loss due to those shorter rotations. Here's just a shot from a few days ago. In Alabama, we seem to have went through some dry times, and we go a few weeks without any rain, and then we get just a downpour. So this right here is 4 inches in 1 hour. And it kind of skews our data when we look at our overall rainfall, because we feel like, well, we're getting plenty of rain when you look at the total amount of rainfall. However, when you get 4 inches in 1 hour, you don't get to capture a lot of that rainfall. It runs off too quick. As we look, obviously thrips is a big issue. We saw a lot of thrips pressure on the cotton, so we wondered what that was going to be like on the peanuts. We feel like we'd have a lot of pressure there. You can see here some 12Ys that are in the picture that have a lot of resistance to tomato spotted wilt. However, you can see that they do have a lot of thrips pressure on them, even though they had thiamet applied to them. So we're always thinking about tomato spotted wilt and will it be an issue or not. Luckily, so far as we've gotten on into the middle of July, doesn't really seem like we've got a lot of tomato spotted wilt this year. So that's a good thing. And we were able to start planting early. This year we were out there by the middle of April planting peanuts, which turned out to be a good thing considering what happened later in May. Alabama NASS has us predicted at 175,000 acres. I certainly think that's a little bit short. I think we'll be more 185, maybe even 190,000. But obviously our concerns are crop input, seed, fertilizer, chemicals. Everything is very expensive that we're touching and handling. And, I think that's the reason why we see a lot of people leaning on peanuts this year, trying to avoid some of those other fertilizer costs that occur with some of those other crops. But the main varieties we've got, obviously, still 06G is the dominant variety. Got a lot more 12Ys and AU17s, a few 16HO. A lot of the Georgia 18 RUs. I had a number of calls this year. That's a variety that's been around a long time, and producers all across the state was like, hey, what about this 18 RU? I guess you just plant what's available to you. That's what I'll say about that. So like I said, good that we got started. We had good warm temperatures, good soil temperatures early in the season, so we was able to get started earlier. And the good thing is when we got started early, we got a lot done. We got 50% of the crop planted by the time it started raining in May. When we hit about the 10th of May, started raining, it rained all the way to about the 24th of May. So we lost a good 2 weeks there of nothing going on, no planting during prime time that we typically plant. So that creates a pretty good issue for us here as we think about looking forward to the rest of the season, what kind of weather we're going to have there. Obviously the later that we plant, so that meant 50% was planted at the very end of May and into June. that's concerning when you think about our typical weather that we get when we get to the fall. Sometimes we don't get a lot of rain until we have a hurricane or something. We're going to need a good bit of rain throughout the growing season there late as the early fall to help finish out this crop, and then some warm temperatures later. So we'll see what happens there. Other concerns, economics, inflation cost of living is just too high. Snails is also something that we continue to see across Alabama. We certainly are trying to get a handle on them before they get a handle on us. So we continue to do some work there to look at that. We're trying to prevent having that crunchy peanut butter if we can. Look here, here's some current pictures that I have from Alabama. You can see here, overall crop looks pretty good. This is a good shot that I wanted to show because this dictates a lot of what's out there, even though this is in the same field, because we planted this field in late April. So those peanuts are about 85 days old. You look at the other little plot we had saved for a test plot to go in, something we were looking at there, those peanuts were planted the last day of May, 1st of June. So we're about 45, 50 days compared to 85 days. I wanted to show that because you can look and see the stress that we're under right there. It's very critical this time right now. We keep getting rain chances, 70, 80% for all the week, and it's very spotted and light rains. We really need to get wet. I know driving over across Georgia, I saw some places that desperately needed some rain, and there were some places that were very lush and green. It's very isolated, but it's a critical time right now on these older peanuts that were planted. So the 50% that's early really needs a lot of rain. We've been getting by fine right now so far with the others, but the water demand's fixing to kick up on them as well. So reaching out to Georgia and talking with Scott over there, 850,000 acres is what they have predicted. That's up from 770 in 2023. Said they had a lot of replants, mainly due to a lot of those rains early during the planting season, and he said probably didn't finish planting until the 1st of July. So obviously still 06G there is a dominant variety with 75% of them, and issues with the weather delaying the planting, and then the rot having to replant about 60,000 acres due to excessive moisture. Other concerned about this late harvest with 50% planted early and then 50 late. So 4 weeks of hot, dry weather in June, scattered rains through the end of June. Here you see some pictures that he's included with the time stamp on them, 45 to 50 days after planting, and then even some young peanuts right there that are real small. Here you see some nice lush peanuts here, 75 to 80 days. He said about 25% of their acreage is in that stage right here on 70 to 80 days after planting. About 65% of their acreage is 40 to 65 days after planting, and 10% is 20 to 35 days after planting. Talking with Brendan over in Mississippi, they increased their acreage up to about 24,000 acres, over 18,000. Said they had a lot of interest in the peanuts this year. Some guys that had not planted peanuts in 4 or 5 years planted peanuts this year. They had finished up planting there by the first part of June. Obviously the mainstay variety 06G there as well. And then, so as we think about the southern peanut growers, all of these states here in the southeast, our main issues that we're at right now and concerned with is 50% of the crop being planted the end of May and 1st of June. How important the weather is going to be when we need these later rains, and how that's going to work out with us. We've had a lot of higher temperatures early, probably going to lead to a lot more disease there with that, and then the increased cost. So here you can just see a picture from Mississippi there with the thrips pressure on some peanuts there. So this was a slide of all the states there combined to show the U.S. acreage. Looking here at Alabama, we had increased about 7 to 10% over the year before. Georgia is up 10%, and Florida is up 6% as well. Mississippi is up 25%. And you can see overall here we're looking at 1.75 million acres. Been quite some time since we've seen a number that high on the U.S. peanut acreage as a whole. That gives us about an 8% increase in acreage over last year.